With the release of the brand new campaign for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, there was a bunch of leaks, and a lot of these leaks showed off new maps, camos, and all sorts of other things, including game modes. And two things that appeared in the game modes was very strange to see and got me very excited for like a split second until I realized it's probably not going to be actually in the game, and that is zombies. Zombies was leaked to be in Modern Warfare 2. There was part of the game mode code. It literally included round-based zombies and Outbreak as two separate modes. Now, this is most likely just code for COD 2024, Treyarch's next game. It's unlikely this is from 2020 from Cold War because the engine I just don't think is as similar as what the engine's going to be for Treyarch's next game in 2024. So chances are this is like early code or something because they're working off of the same engine. And that makes sense. That does at least confirm to us that zombies will be returning in that game with Outbreak and round-based, so I guess that's good to hear. But I personally don't think we're actually going to be seeing zombies in Modern Warfare 2, at least in terms of the way that we usually get it. I think it's possible we'll see it down the line, maybe like for year 2, because of course this is a 2-year life cycle Call of Duty, so they could release it in 2023, like later in the year, like in November, when usually we get a new Call of Duty, they could give us zombies then, or maybe they can give it 6 months in, or something of the sort. That's very possible. Also, it's possible that we'll just get zombies-related modes like in Warzone, because of course even Warzone before did that. They added zombies to Warzone actually before Cold War I think even came out, I believe. So they could be toying with the idea of that, but are we going to see a round-based experience alongside Outbreak in Modern Warfare 2? I doubt it. And the only reason I doubt it, at least for like launch, is because why wouldn't they have told us about that by now? You know, why wouldn't they have been hyping it up, marketing that, giving trailers and everything? Because zombies is a big selling point for Call of Duty. A lot of people love zombies, so you'd think it would be something that they would be trying to market their game with. So I think the chances of us getting zombies anywhere close to the launch of Modern Warfare 2, I think it's very slim. So yeah, that's unfortunate. And that kind of gets into the next part of the video where I kind of want to talk about why I think zombies should be in every Call of Duty going forward, because it's actually probably an unpopular opinion. I feel like whenever I discuss this online, I get a lot of pushback. A lot of people don't think zombies should release every year, and I'm going to give my argument as to why I think it should be in every single Call of Duty game. I have a few points to bring up, but before I get into this, I would like to say that I don't mind having modes that aren't zombies as the third mode in Call of Duty, only if it's done right, and I just don't think they have done that right before. I think Extinction is the closest to something that is done right for a non-zombies third mode, but everything else Call of Duty has done, I have thought was pretty much pointless, aside from your typical Battle Royale, which I wouldn't really consider to be the third mode. When I talk about the third mode, I'm mainly referring to co-op modes, and obviously Battle Royale is not a co-op mode really, that's more of a multiplayer experience. But I mean, let's just take an example and look at Spec Ops. We've had Spec Ops in a couple different Call of Duties, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, Modern Warfare 2019, as well as we're going to have it in Modern Warfare 2 this year. And it's always been kind of just meh to me. Like, it's never been anything that exciting. Of course, I have memories on Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 Spec Ops. I definitely enjoyed it when it was, when it was first out. But that's because we didn't really know the possibilities of zombies just yet. Like, I definitely preferred zombies even back then, but I was like, oh, well, it's Infinity Ward's year. Let's just, go a year without zombies. It's okay. We're going to get Treyarch's game. We're going to have awesome zombies the next year. And that was kind of just like the norm. But once we started getting zombies every year after Advanced Warfare onward, and then we just kept getting zombies modes every single year, I was just kind of like, that was the norm. That became the norm, and I was really excited to see the new zombies iteration every single year, and then it just ended out of nowhere with Modern Warfare 2019, and I thought that was going to be the only year they were going to skip it. I thought they were going to just keep going back to it after that, but unfortunately, they decided to skip it this year as well. And I just never felt like Spec Ops has ever been a good replacement because it hasn't been anything that exciting. And this kind of brings me to my first point here, which is essentially that zombies is very unique and has a ton of depth, and that is something that Spec Ops does not have. Zombies is able to take the players into a whole new part of the game. Like, it is completely separate. Yeah, there might be some consistency between the modes, like there's some assets that they reuse from campaign and multiplayer. Obviously, that's been a very frequent thing. But then there's also a lot of new assets. You look at a game like Black Ops 3, All the maps in Black Ops 3 are very unique to zombies. They're not, taken from multiplayer or campaign. Obviously, we see some modes here and there, specifically like Cold War did this a lot, and even the older games like World at War, where yes, the locations they use are pretty much just taken from campaign or multiplayer, but they're reworked in a way to make it work in zombies, obviously. And then they have their own story. It's a very unique story, character quotes, like their own specific characters with their own quotes. Obviously you have Easter eggs and such, you have side quests in some of the later games, you have wonder weapons, different equipment that is specific to zombies, tons and tons of things that is unique to the zombies mode. And Extinction did the same thing, so I'm kind of going to loop Extinction with zombies here, because although I don't like Extinction that much, it definitely still fits in this category of being unique and separate from the rest of the game. So at the end of the day, although I'm saying I want zombies every year, I would be okay with a mode like Extinction as well, because it's kind of in the same category in my opinion. It's something supernatural, something different than the typical Call of Duty mode, like playing against normal soldiers in war. It's very different than that. And obviously Spec Ops doesn't have much of that uniqueness. Spec Ops is literally just all of the assets from multiplayer and campaign mushed into this little side mode. It is not something that really has probably that much development time put into it. I mean, when you really look at it, they could easily have Spec Ops alongside a zombies mode. Like, I don't see why they couldn't. I really don't think it would be that difficult, because Spec Ops is usually just taking the multiplayer maps. I mean, you look at the two different sides of Spec Ops, right? I think Modern Warfare 3 is the best example of Spec Ops, so we'll use that. You have the survival mode, which is literally just take the multiplayer maps, add some spawn locations for enemies, which should already be worked into the game in the multiplayer, so you think they can just kind of use that again. And then you have different like crates around the map that let you either buy weapons or buy streaks. And it's just the multiplayer maps, and you're just shooting people that are literally assets from campaign AI. Like, it's the same thing. It's no different. Like, that's not that really complex. It's not something that can really give you the same replay value as a really in-depth zombies experience. And then you look at the Spec Ops missions. They're basically just campaign missions, like really short campaign missions that are like 5 to 10 minutes long, sometimes even shorter, without a deep story. I mean, sometimes they try to work in story with it, like in Modern Warfare 2019 Spec Ops, they worked in some story elements to it, but for the most part, it just doesn't really have much story. So it's just like campaign missions without the story. Again, you can have that probably without needing it to be a separate mode that replaces zombies. I mean, look at Infinite Warfare. They had a bunch of side missions within their campaign, and some of the other Call of Duties do side missions as well. Actually, Cold War did a couple of side missions for their campaign, which I kind of like that feature. I like the whole side mission thing. And they basically were Spec Ops missions. They were separate missions that were not needed for the main story, but did add some detail to the overarching story if you wanted to play it. So why not just have side missions in your campaign? Why not use the Spec Ops missions as side missions instead of having it be a separate mode that's literally replacing zombies, which has been such a major thing in Call of Duty? And there's literally a whole community around zombies. Like, there's literally a community of people that came together to just show their appreciation and love for this side mode in Call of Duty. You don't see that for Spec Ops. You don't. Obviously, there's been less Spec Ops iterations, but I don't think, no matter how many Spec Ops iterations we got, would it ever be considered as a separate thing from the rest of the game. It would just kind of be lumped in with the overall experience, which I just don't think that's what this third mode should be. I would also like to make a counter argument to something I always hear people say in regards to why they don't want zombies every year, and a lot of people say it's because they don't want to get burnt out on zombies. I personally never understood this argument because, first of all, the community, obviously not everyone thinks the same way, but as a whole, I usually hear the community saying that zombies doesn't have enough content. And I'll sometimes hear it from the same person. They'll complain that zombies does not have enough content. We are dying for zombies content. Like, every time a new zombies is out, they're like, we need more content, we need more maps, we need more this, that. You know, they want more and more and more. And then when it comes to having zombies every year, they're like, no, zombies needs a break. We don't want zombies this year. We need a break from it. Like, I don't get that. I don't really understand how that would fix things. Like, zombies needs more content, right? Like, why would taking a break fix it? Now, there is one argument against having zombies every year that I do slightly agree with, but I don't think it necessarily means we can't have zombies every year. And that is the argument that they don't have enough time to do it, right? If they're gonna rush it, we shouldn't force it every year, and that is fair. Like, if they don't have time to make a new zombies mode, which, yes, zombies can be something that's very deep and it takes a lot of time to develop, that's fair. If they don't have time, they shouldn't do it. I agree. But it doesn't mean we can't have some level of it, and at the end of the day, this is a AAA studio. They should be able to afford enough resources and work in order to make a zombies mode in 3 years. They should be able to do it. It's just a matter of, do they actually allocate their time and resources properly? And if they don't, then obviously it's probably not something they should bother with. And that's something in Vanguard Zombies I can kind of agree with. I think it would have been okay to not have zombies that year, just because what they did give us was something that a lot of people hated. I personally enjoy Shinonuma and the Archon in that game. I think they're actually pretty good maps, but obviously the first two maps or kind of a waste. I think if they were to just release Shinonuma and the Archon and not try something so new, I think it would have been a little bit better received, and people would have just been okay with only 2 maps. People would still complain because that's not that many maps, but at least it would have been better than not having anything and at wasting the time on something that a lot of people didn't really enjoy in the first place. That way the game could have still had some sort of zombies, because it's better than not having any zombies when you really think about it. Like, yeah, they could have just not done zombies, but then what would they have done in replacement for that? Maybe a little Spec Ops mode with like 3 missions or something? Like, okay, like that would have been not that special either. I think the solution should have just been to not have Treyarch make zombies. You know what I mean? I think that's the biggest issue there is, yes, I don't want Treyarch to make zombies every year. I agree with that. I think if Treyarch were to make zombies every year, it would always be kind of lackluster, because trying to rush a zombies mode in a year is not going to be easy. But that's why either separate studios or the own studio that's making the game itself, like Sledgehammer, should have been making zombies that year. Now, obviously, Sledgehammer probably didn't have the time, but I mean, come on, again, this is Activision. They should have the money to afford more studios, more developers, more help to make a side mode for zombies. They should be able to do that. And if they don't, and there's just no way, then fine, I'm okay with not having it. But that's not the point I'm making in this video. The point I'm making is that if they are able to make zombies every year, they should do it. It's not about whether or not they are able to physically, it's whether or not, if they are, then should they do it, right? And I think my point is even better now because of the fact that we're probably only going to be getting a new Call of Duty every 2 years now. I'm not sure how long that's going to last, but obviously Treyarch's next game doesn't come out till 2024, and then after that it's kind of up in the air. But let's say Treyarch does have another 2 years, then we won't get Sledgehammer's next game until 2026. Now, let's say that does happen, right? Let's say there is going to be a 2-year gap for every Call of Duty now. That proves my point even more, because you're trying to tell me that you want to wait a whole 6 years for a new zombies experience? I mean, come on now. Let's say Treyarch's next game is well received for their zombies mode, and they keep updating it until, like, 2026, late 2026, until the next Call of Duty is releasing, because they are done with their life cycle. And then we get the next game, right? And then there's no zombies. Let's say everyone's prayers have been answered. There's no zombies in any game other than Treyarch's Call of Duty. And let's say there's a 2-year gap for every game now. And then we get 2028 would be Infinity Ward's game. So we would have a whole 2 years for Sledgehammer, and then another whole 2 years for Infinity Ward. So that would mean after 2024, when we get Treyarch's game, we're going to have content for that up until 2026. We're going to have to wait all the way until late 2030, literally the 30s, before we get another zombies mode. Like, that is insane to me. Like, they do not need 6 years to work on a zombies mode. And sure, they could, and it could be a really expansive, crazy, insane mode, but at the end of the day, the problem with that is it's not just about time. I think a lot of people assume the more development time they have in a game, the better it's going to be. But we know that's not really the case, because there's more that goes into game development. A big thing is the ideas in the game design. What if they spend all this time on this game and it still ends up sucking? You still hate it, you still despise the design choices they made for the game, and you have absolutely no fun in it. Well, now you're going to have a zombies mode that's going to be out for the next 6 years, and that's the only zombies content you're going to have besides, obviously, the past games and custom zombies. That's all you're going to have, because no new maps are going to change how you feel about it because you don't like the core gameplay. There's no other zombies mode for you to have now. There's just none. They're not going to create another game that you're going to enjoy for the next 6 years. And by the time it's 2030, I mean, that's so long from now. I mean, some of us are going to be like whole ass fathers by then. We're going to have children. We're going to be married. It's so long from now. So I think it's such an insane thing to think, oh, we should only have it every 6 years, when it's something that they could make in a limited amount of time. They could. They have done that before, and we've loved some of their modes that they have made in just 2 or 3 years. So I think they're able to do that. And obviously we have 3 studios here. We have 3 different studios. So they could take a whole 6 years to work on their next mode. They could. But let the other studios do it too. Let the other studios make their own zombies iteration. Or it could be Extinction or something of the sort. Something that is going to give someone something to enjoy that is a separate thing from your typical Spec Ops co-op experience that has literally no depth to it. Unless they find a way to make Spec Ops really in-depth, I just don't see how they can. If they want to, sure, go for it, but we haven't seen them do it, and I just really doubt they ever will. And if you're the type of person who feels like you're gonna get burnt out on zombies, just don't play every single map. Don't play every single zombies mode. You don't have to. You're not forced to play it. I never understood the idea of burnout from something that you're not forced to do. Like people talking about like Marvel movies and burnout from those. You don't have to really watch all of them. You can just kind of skip them and then wait till there's a certain point in time where you do want to watch them, and then you can watch them. You don't have to watch them every single time they've released. That's just not something you have to do. And I really don't think that burnout is a real thing. I think it's more about them not enjoying the modes, therefore they start feeling that quote-unquote burnout, where in reality, if let's say they enjoyed every single zombies mode, I don't think they'd ever be complaining about burnout. Like, I remember hearing a lot of people complaining about zombies every year, mainly around like when World War II and Black Ops 4 was out. That's around the time we started hearing that, because I remember Modern Warfare 2019, it was revealed to not have zombies, and a lot of people were happy about that. And I was like, really? Like, people are happy about that? And a lot of people were arguing that it's burnout, but I really felt like it was because people haven't been enjoying the recent zombies modes. I personally enjoyed like Infinite Warfare, Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4. I enjoyed those zombies modes, but a lot of people didn't really, aside from Black Ops 3, but like Infinite Warfare and beyond, a lot of people did not enjoy that. So I felt like it was the fact that they weren't enjoying the content they were getting, so they felt burnout, even though it really wasn't about the quantity of it. It was more about the quality of it. I don't think there was too much zombies. I don't think 4 through 5 maps a year is that much, really. It's not something that's going to consider to be burnout, especially because maps get kind of old kind of quick for a lot of people. I mean, people get bored of them after like a couple weeks usually, for the most part, so I don't see how having 4 to 5 maps a year is ever going to be too much. And lastly, I don't think having zombies every year means it's going to be the same thing every year. I think that's another point people bring up, where they assume, oh, it sucks to have it every year for every COD because it gets repetitive. They want something very different. You can still have it be zombies, but still be very unique, and I think they've done a decent job at that. I mean, you look at, again, the whole, Infinite Warfare to World War II to Black Ops 4, those 3 modes are nothing alike. They're nothing alike. Yeah, they have the core zombies formula because it's the formula that works, but the modes really have a different tone, they have a different atmosphere, they have different gameplay design overall, so it definitely is still different. And they could even go further with that. With the addition of Outbreak, you can do so much. You could have modes that are nothing like your typical zombies experience. And I know Vanguard tried that, but unfortunately I just think that specific thing that they were trying to do just wasn't very popular with people, and that's okay. There was trial and error. They saw it didn't work, and they're never going to do something like that again, obviously. But I think there's definitely different types of zombies modes they can do, and that can work. I think the round-based formula, though, is tried and true and could still be in every mode, but can still be very different. They can have a round-based experience in every single Call of Duty game and still have it be very different from game to game. They just need to find a way to do it so it's fun and enjoyable for all types of players, so then we can get it every year and people don't have to complain about it. You know what I mean? Again, it also depends on them having the abilities and the resources to do it, but this is Activision. They should be able to have the resources and the abilities to do it. So that is just my opinion. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. I will see you all in my next one. Peace out.